The average American is broke, overweight, and stressed out. 60% can't cover a $1,000 emergency. 69% are overweight or obese. 75% report regular stress symptoms. So we can pretty much assume that everything popular is wrong. And being normal has been something that I have absolutely run away from. And because of that, I've been able to reach financial freedom in my 20s. And these are some normal things that I had to quit in order to make that happen. Most people will spend all of their lives working in order to make somebody else rich. Then they'll just go on to complain about and hate on that same person that they're supporting. And so this is why I actually stopped working in order to earn money. You would think that working in order to earn money is a great idea until you realize that as long as you're in the trading time for money game, you're mostly just supporting other people and building up their dreams, which is awesome. And for some people that's totally good. But for me, if I wanted to reach freedom in my 20s, which was my goal my whole life, I realized that it wasn't possible when I'm helping somebody else reach freedom instead of myself. And here's the thing, 45% of Americans do not like their jobs. They're unhappy with them. Only about 11% of people think that what they are doing is their calling. But I think most of us would agree that we would love to do what we feel called to do, what we feel like is our purpose, what we love, what excites us, whether that's like starting a coffee shop, running a YouTube channel, volunteering at the local soup kitchen. You would love to do what you would love to do every day, right? But almost 90% of people will never get to do that because they are stuck in this trap. The employer is gonna pay you just enough so that you don't quit, but they're almost never gonna give you enough to have freedom on your own because then they would lose you as an employee. So you're stuck in this middle ground of like, well, it's okay, but it's never enough to be exciting and to gain real freedom. And you will get stuck in that rat race for your life. For me, it was really, really scary because the thing is, it feels secure, but it's not. A job can disappear overnight. And if you have all your eggs in one basket, you have one stream of income, you could have layoffs, the business could close, you could have a fight with your boss, like literally anything can happen. So the most scary thing possible is not like starting your own thing and having that like have a possibility of failure. It's having a job. To me, always seemed horrifying when to most people it seemed secure. But I really hate putting my own and my family's like fate in somebody else's hand. And so I did something that I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was to work to learn instead of work to earn it. That meant that I took sales jobs. I became a real estate agent for 8 years. I was really bad at it, but I learned a lot of sales stuff. I started some of my own businesses, concrete company. I became a manager at a cleaning company, and I interviewed a couple hundred people that I was hiring and firing and managing all these people. And none of those were my end goal. None of them paid a lot of money, but the experience that I got from all of those was the thing that I was really after. And eventually, after years of trying different things, they all came together into my own businesses, which at the time I didn't know what those would be. But that is something that I see very few people try to do, is actually take a job, not just because of the amount of money that job takes, but for like 5 years from now, can you leverage this into something else that has an opportunity to earn 5 times more? And if not, if you're not gonna learn valuable skills, then even if it's a little bit more money now, sometimes it's just not worth it for that job. And that was something that really unlocked for me and was a huge key to me actually being able to build wealth in my 20s. The next thing I did was to quit the treat yourself trap. I'm not gonna lie, this wasn't the most fun thing that I quit, but what has become normal in this culture is literally insane. So you work really hard, right? Like let's say you're trying to lose weight, right? And you're on a diet, you're working really hard for an entire week. You are really good on this diet. You're cutting calories, you're not going out to dinner, you're saying no to ice cream at night. Like I love ice cream. You're saying no to it. But then there's a holiday, there's Thanksgiving, there's a birthday, somebody has invites you to whatever, and you have a couple thousand extra calories. You just blew like at a week's worth of work for like 2 hours of enjoyment. This is the whole idea of treat yourself, and it's insane. It is saying that like, oh, I was really good. I stuck to my budget for like 3 months. So I'm gonna treat myself and get this handbag. I'm gonna get this vacation. I'm gonna get a nicer car or whatever. And therefore you are actually robbing yourself in your future. All that hard work you did, all the things that you said no to are completely shot and worthless now. And sometimes you're even in a worse financial situation because you are treating yourself. I got more clothes. I spent more on a vacation. I did whatever to treating myself, meaning I am gonna have more freedom. I'm gonna work 1 less hour for the rest of my life because of this. So I now treat myself with freedom. I treat myself with peace. I treat myself with experiences, with getting to spend time with my kids, having the ability to work or not work as I want. So while it's not wrong to like enjoy the fruits of your labor, If you are going through the cycle of like working really hard and just like having relapses constantly and overeating and binge eating and binge spending and shopping sprees and all this stuff, then like why bother? I never really got that. It's literally just hurting yourself and nobody else. So I moved away from that, and instead I treat myself with like something that I can enjoy forever, like freedom. Another thing that I stopped doing was not caring about my health. Taking care of my body and trying to make it feel as good as it can, as long as it can, is something that's really important to me. And that's one of the reasons why I sauna, I cold plunge, I work out consistently. But another thing that makes me feel better is making sure that I get the proper nutrition my body needs. And that's why I've actually been loving the sponsor of this video, Seed, and their new DM02 Daily Multivitamin. I've actually been using Seed for a while. And the reason that I like this is because it's not just another generic multivitamin. I don't know about you, but I know that a lot of them are just kind of like scams. They either like have crazy dosages or your body can't actually absorb this stuff. And Seed is actually different. Seed's DMO2 delivers 100% of your daily value of 20 essential vitamins and minerals. But it's in bioavailable forms that your body can actually absorb. And it has a proprietary capsule-in-capsule delivery system. So part of it fuels your body and part of it works its way down to your gut's microbiome, where your microbes can actually access the benefits, which is super cool. So that means when I don't get all the nutrition I need out of my diet, because I eat the same like 5 foods every day, it means that I can fill in the gaps with this and help support all of these. And the best part is, it is just one tiny pill per day. No like handful of pills or overthinking it. It's very simple, and everybody knows I like simple. You can use the code GABE20 to get 20% off your first month. I will drop a link down below. It's nice to know that you're taking something that your body can actually use and it's actually high quality, makes you feel better. So again, there's a link down below, GABE20, and thank you to Seed for sponsoring this video. Also quit the normal order of operations. By the way, I currently have my comforter set up to try to get rid of some of the echo in here. It doesn't look good. All right, so this is where the $100 rule comes in. Every $100 a month recurring expense that you have means that you're gonna need an extra $30,000 in order to retire, using the rule of 25 from the FIRE community. So here's the normal order of operations that literally screws everybody, makes them stay at a job that they hate, destroys freedom, why most people don't travel. See, most people, they get an apartment. And then they get another apartment, maybe a nicer one. And then they save up, they have a down payment for a starter home. And then they save up and they have a down payment for a nicer home. And so by the time they're in their 30s or 40s, they finally have their forever home, and they will never ever have freedom because of that order of operations. Each time they got a raise, there was anything significant that they did good financially, they took their biggest expense and they raised it. And then also because of buying the starter home and then the next home, they most likely reset that 30-year countdown, that they're gonna have those recurring expenses, which are gonna cost hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars over the next 30 years. That is the normal thing to do, and that is the trap that most people will never ever get out of, and why you don't really know anybody who's free in their 20s or 30s. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be that way. You can just shift things around a little bit and have a very similar result without like crippling yourself throughout the process. So kind of what I did here is I continued to get higher paying jobs, work multiple jobs. I had a lot of things that was going on full time and a couple part time and whatever. But instead of buying a nice place to live, driving a nice car, anything like that at the beginning, I bought assets. This is again something I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad, that rich people buy assets and the poor and middle class buy liabilities. What's an asset and a liability? An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Like both of those are on recurring things. So that would mean as you get that nicer house, as you buy that nicer car, you are simply digging yourself in a deeper hole with just shinier walls. So instead of doing that, I stayed at the very base level that I could possibly survive on for a couple more years than everybody else that I knew. And I took that extra money and I bought assets that paid me money every single month. And all freedom really comes down to is just having enough assets that it covers your monthly expenses, and then you're free. So you can do that in your 20s, you can do that when you're 70. Like, it's totally up to you when you buy the assets, but that is just really what I focused on. And because I spent 5 years only buying assets, I now am able to have this really nice home, which is amazing. And I'm incredibly blessed to be here, which is the same result that I would have wanted, but I'm able to buy this through cash flow from assets that I built. So financially, it's not crippling to me. I'm gonna try to pay it off completely in like 3 years, which was something that if I didn't have cash flow coming in would be something that's completely impossible for me. So the sooner you shift from buying liabilities, clothes, cars, technology, houses, anything like that, and you just shift all that money, all that attention, all that energy into buying things or creating things that pay you every single month, whether that's real estate, stocks, YouTube videos that pay me, even if it's a couple cents every single day for 7 years, that's great. You just need enough of those that it covers all your expenses and you're good to go. And you can do that as quick or as long as you want to. It's totally up to you. But the main thing is you just can't do what most Americans do, which is just constantly buy liabilities. You can't do it. And another thing you can't do is forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe. It would really mean a lot. Trying to get to 1 million subscribers, I never thought I'd even hit 1,000, and now we're here, and I appreciate each and every one of you. But if you want a way to support me that's free, it's a great way to do it. Then of course, I stopped trying to balance. Here's the thing. Everybody says you try to find this work-life balance. I'm working on my work-life balance right now. I'm just trying to get everything even. And I'm a firm believer that that's one of the reasons most people, stay trapped in their finances. Let's say you have health, wealth, relationships, hobbies. If you want your wealth to be very different than everybody else that you know, it's very unlikely that that's gonna happen while you're putting your energy equally into every single thing, right? You only have so much life. You have this one bucket of water. And if you're giving 25% to this, 25% to this, 25% to this, 25% to this, they're all gonna grow about the same, right? So if you want one of them to be amazing, if you want to be ripped to the core, if you want to have an amazing relationship, if you want to have great wealth, you need to purposefully find a little bit of unbalance. So maybe you take a little bit out of your hobbies. I gave up playing video games. I gave up a ton of different things, watching TV, even doing some things with friends. I gave up this 25% a year for the most part for only like 3 to 5 years. And then a little bit of the other parts as well. And I focused it all in on one thing, which was my wealth building. And because of that unbalance, that tree grew a ton. And as that tree grew, well, now I have freedom. Maybe now I can only put 20% or 15% or 10% into that tree because it's already alive and growing, and I can redistribute it to everything else that I want to do. If I want to travel more, if I want to have more freedom, spend more time with my kids. That was a shift that I need to make. But in order to get that tree to grow really well, I had to give it all of my energy, all of my resources. I had to obsess. I had to become a different person than I was. I couldn't just half do stuff. I had to go all in order to make that happen. And that's something most people are unwilling to do. They try to find this balance. They try to work on something while still doing everything else. If you want to have this amazing balanced life where you're financially free and you have all this different stuff, it generally doesn't happen exactly balanced all the way. It goes in shifts of like, okay, unbalanced, all right, balanced. All right, unbalanced, all right, balanced. All right, unbalanced, balance. And you shift between those two, and each time you have these big bursts of growth followed by rest periods, and that's how you have the most growth on one area, is by hyper focusing on it. And so I realized that if I wanted to have freedom in my 20s, I would have to give up quite a few years of my 20s doing the normal things. And even being unbalanced might just mean I never went out to dinner, I never traveled, I never had a nice car, I never watched TV. Like, all of those things don't even matter. They don't make you any happier. I wasn't less happy because I was unbalanced. I was just hyper focused on something I was excited about, which again, only 11% of people feel like they are doing what their calling is. So if you can hyper focused on something you feel like is your calling and eventually make it your thing, that's the most balanced thing ever. And I'm still super unbalanced because all I do is like work, but that's all I want to do. I love it so much. I have time to do whatever. I could play pickleball, I could travel more, I could do whatever. This is what I love doing. This is what I feel like makes an impact and feel like is my calling. So why would I want to do anything else just out of the sake of being balanced? It's kind of crazy. Work-life balance is a scam. For most people, it was for me anyways. Also purposefully try to look dumb, which for me is not very hard as a high school dropout. For real though, I think most people, their biggest fear is public speaking, right? It's one of my biggest fears. And that's this fear of being ostracized, of being the odd person out, of people thinking that you're an idiot, which is a reasonable fear when you actually are. But a while ago, I actually realized that most people will stay broke because of their fear of looking dumb. And the thing is, the fear is not real. Every fear is pretty much not real. It's this thing that is in our head that is projecting onto the future of making it either better or worse than it is, when all we can do is live right now, right? So like, you have this fear that you're gonna, pass out on stage and people are gonna laugh at you, but you have no control over that. And that can be the thing that actually makes that happen because of how you handle that in the present. So if you have fear about stuff, if you're anxious about stuff, it's generally just your mind imagining different scenarios that are very unlikely to happen, right? And so when I understood this, I realized that if I could get past this fear, the fear of failure, the fear of losing money, the fear of embarrassing myself, that's where a lot of freedom lied. I always heard people say like, oh, you gotta embrace your failures. You gotta learn from them. That's when you learn the most stuff. You're like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. I agree with that even. You read all the books like, yeah, I agree. I love to try to fail. But then you look at your life and you're like, have you failed in a large way in the past year? Have you? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Have you actually failed in the past year? I'm gonna tell you, I have. I spent about 6 months last year building a product that I thought was really cool. Hundreds of hours probably went into it. And I believe about 9 people bought the thing. So I shut it down. I realized I had kind of built it for myself and I hadn't built what people had actually wanted. I learned from that and I shut it down. I gave everybody a refund. So I just lost like, hundreds of hours of stuff, but I take that as a learning experience. And I am so glad that I failed because I learned a very valuable lesson that only took me, 100, 200 hours to learn, which is awesome. I'm recovering from it. But that is that I get rewarded generally when I serve people, when I look at my own experiences, when I look at what problems people have and I try to figure it out for myself. And then I help people solve problems. I share things. I am vulnerable. The more I can serve people, the more I can help people, generally, the more selfishly I get rewarded. And so my whole goal right now with any business that I run is to simply serve people as much as I possibly can. Simply be a servant, help people as much as I can, and somehow I will get rewarded out of that. And whether it's making a video or a product or whatever it is, I'm never thinking about what do I want to watch, what do I want to make, what do I want to do, what do I want to talk about, although I do that a little bit. It's mostly like, how can I help people? So anyways, that was one of my many failures. I've also failed 10 other businesses, but whatever. I know people who have wanted to start, for instance, a YouTube channel for the past 7 years and haven't posted a video because of the fear of failure, the fear of embarrassing yourself, the fear that your friends and family will see that you tried something and it didn't work out. And because of that, they are guaranteeing themselves never to have success. 100% certain that you will not fail in front of people. Also 100% certain that you will not get to be that 11% of people who love what they do, who are fulfilling their callings. And so you just never actually start anything you want to do. You don't start writing a book because then your book can't be a failure. You don't start that diet because then you can't fall off the bandwagon. You don't ask that person out because then they can't reject you. You don't start that business because then it can't fail. That is why most people are overweight, not healthy in their relationships. They don't have as much money as they want to. They don't have as much freedom as they want to. It's because they are afraid to fail. There's one thing I would just ask you to do is just try to look for one big, enormous failure that you can try for every year. Try something that's either like, this is gonna be great or I'm gonna fail really bad. You do that every year for 10 years, you are going to be a different person. Just fail. Who cares? Nobody cares. Everybody's thinking about themselves. Nobody cares about you. I care about you. But most people, they only care about themselves. Just fail more. One of the things that I've been building for the past 2 years is actually a course where I help people grow on YouTube, where I teach live for 8 weeks on how to grow on YouTube. And so far in the past year and a half, we've had 5 people leave their jobs through it. I'm trying to get that to 100 people. So if you want to check it out, there's a link down below. You can join the wait list or actually check it out. That's one of my callings that I am super passionate about right now. But whatever yours is, go out and make it happen.